Okay, so today, as I've said, we will be discussing the determinants of learning, okay, or learning needs in short. Okay, so the determinants of learning, okay, we have the following factors or aspects. Okay. Okay. So first up, we have learning needs. So basically, it is defined as what the learner needs to learn. Okay. Number two, readiness to learn. So kung kailan ready or kailan receptive ang student to learning. Okay. So itong readiness to learn, I've mentioned this a couple of times back then. Okay. So this is determined by a lot of factors. Okay. It could be um, yung interest first and foremost, the willingness of the learner to take in new lessons. Okay? And this could also be determined by the learner's physical and or emotional state during the time that uh, the teaching session was conducted. Okay, so as a teacher, you have to be particular or you have to consider the readiness of your learner. Okay, and because hindi magiging effective yung lessons, yung teaching strategies ninyo if in the first place your learner is not interested or not ready to take in your lesson. Okay, sorry for that. And a slight disturbance, pumasok yung nephew ko. Okay. So next, we have learning style. Okay, so itong si learning style, um, this refers to how the learner best learns. Okay, so it also means yung preference ng learner. Okay, according to the learner's personality traits, okay, yung ano yung which sense or which strategy appeals to him or her the most. Okay, so personally, no, or rather, this differs among all students. Okay, no two students are the same when it comes to learning styles. Okay, so you're going to find that out in the next few slides. Okay, so to have a further definition no, in your learning needs, so as defined, learning needs are defined as gaps in the knowledge that exist between a desired level of performance and the actual performance. Okay, so let's say, for example, one of the best examples that we are going to um, that we're going to use no, again and again is yung funda ninyo. Okay, especially since you are quite used to or by now no you are already used to having lectures of funda and then followed by your return demonstration. Okay, so for those CIs assigned in the teaching of your fundamentals in nursing, they already have their fixed standards. Okay, yung desired or the ideal standard of performance. Let's say, for example, in bed making, in hand washing, and all those other procedures in your fundamentals in nursing subject. And then you are going to be graded according to those standards. That is why you have your checklist to guide you. Okay. So next, another definition for your learning need is as a gap between what someone knows and what someone needs to know. Okay, so definitely no, even as teachers, we cannot say na we are perfect. We cannot say that we know everything, which is why no, especially here in the academic setting, learning is forever. Learning is a repetitive process. So if I compare myself, no, back when I just started out as a clinical instructor back in 2020, You can see perhaps no na medyo nag-improve konti um, yung teaching style, tapos yung social anxiety, yung social anxiety ko na, na reduce kahit konti. No? So same thing din with you students. No? You started this lesson. I mean, you started most of your concepts, other subjects, no, um, with zero to few information about each subject. But then as time goes by, no, okay, with the guidance of your other teachers, your knowledge definitely got had some improvement. So nag-add on sa uh, base knowledge ninyo about that subject. Okay, so these gaps exist because of lack of knowledge, attitudes, and skills. And it is through the teacher's guidance that you will be able to meet those learning needs. Okay, so next slide. So 90 to 95% of learners, according to many educators of educational psychology, can master a subject with a high degree of success if given sufficient time and appropriate types of help. Okay, so these appropriate types of help include yung learning materials available. Okay, so you have yung teacher-based or teacher-provided materials such as your PowerPoint. Okay, so for with you guys, it's PowerPoint. Sa amin, no, yung traditional style years ago, handouts. Okay, so yung medyo mas hago yung on the part on the teacher back then kasi may mga teachers kasi kami na sila yung naga-provide ng photocopies ng mga um, lessons for students. So literally, no, if you were a student back then, sitting pretty ra ka. Okay, so you can just listen to the day's lesson and then you can expect na may handouts or may mga photocopies afterwards. Okay, you just have to pay like minimal mga 5 pesos, 10 pesos for photocopying costs. Okay, so photocopying is life kayo back then. Okay, so ngayon, compared to now, you can send copies of the lesson through paper. Okay, that's one way. Meron din no kana mga I've learned from fellow CIs na yung style ng ibang students, no, meron silang official na tig screenshot or take down notes. Tapos after that, may mag-send sa GC, no, kanang sharing is caring, no. So medyo chill yung ibang students with that style. No? So um, that's also it's also another convenient strategy. However, no, retention isn't always there because as per experience, you get to retain more of the lesson if it's you who's doing the note taking. Okay? So mas active yung note taking ninyo. The more active you are in listening, taking down notes in class, no, mas nakaka-retain kayo ng lesson. Okay? So that's one thing. Next, for sufficient time, no? So definitely there are some lessons na you cannot take in just one set. You cannot um, learn and appreciate in just one session. Okay, so especially for those topics that are quite long. Okay, so it's up to the teacher on how to make a breakdown. Okay, how to break down certain topics na okay, itong three topics or itong isang chapter, I'm going to discuss it today. Okay, so the next chapter, next meeting. Kasi the moment that a student tends to feel too overwhelmed with lesson, no? Lesson overload, hindi siya retain ng additional information or input. Okay, so sufficient time is also a very important aspect, no, in lesson retention. Okay, so aside from that one, no, yung learning materials, okay, availability or appropriateness of learning materials plus sufficient time. Okay. So next up, the teacher must first discover the needs of the learner and then find the most appropriate means of instruction that will enable the learner to master the subject under consideration. Okay, so there are those na who employ the basic lecture discussion style of giving the lesson. Meron din naman na who would employ other means, okay, like the use of videos or the use of live demonstration, okay, to help students retain the lesson. Okay, depende din sa situation and according to the content of the lesson. Okay, so in a way, we teachers have to be flexible. No, we have to adjust or we have to plan out our lessons according to which learning strategy would be the best to use on students at a particular time. Okay, so just going to apologize in advance na having another bit na colds na naman ako. So just in case my voice sounds funny or it's not clear enough, so please let me know. Okay? Okay, so next one. So steps in assessment of learning needs. So number one, definitely you are going to identify the learner. Yes, it's not just basically identifying your learner, no, based on his name. No, you also have to know kung ano yung mga learning styles, learning preferences, or physical conditions, or kung ano yung emotional state niya at that time. No, dapat kalma, dapat relaxy learner. Okay? The thing here with relax, no, do not be too relaxed because as I've said, no, especially when it comes to um when it comes to your sitting position or your position right now while you are having our online lesson, no, if you're too relaxed, no, you might end up sleeping during class, no, so power of sleep kaayo. Okay, so just to insert, no, kanang personally, no, kanang tend to fall asleep easily. I tend to fall asleep easily in class, no. Kahit nung student days ko, no, especially, no, may teacher factor na may mga teachers talaga na very soothing ang kanilang voice, no. Soothing ang voice tapos at the same time, no, yung subject matter nila is very kanang sleep inducing, tulog jud ko bisan na ako sa front, no. So um that was really my problem, no, back then, no, and even now kasi old habits die hard talaga. So ano siya kanang you have to really find ways to focus in class, so that's also on you. Okay, so if ever you are struggling with that one, no, okay, so to combat that one, okay, so it's a matter of adjusting or improving, no, your sitting position, and trying stay away from distractions or yung mga instances or mga temptations na makasleep kayo. Okay, so next, choose the right setting. Okay, so it could be in the regular classroom or in a laboratory or simulated clinical setup. Okay, so like for example, one of the rotations that you will be experiencing or encountering when you reach your second year is the delivery room nursing setup. Okay, so right before students are allowed to go on their clinical duties, we have the skills lab session or uh, skills lab days. Okay, so itong si skills lab, it's a 2-day classroom instruction wherein the students will be allowed to see the equipment, yung instruments that are being used in the delivery room. Okay, so hindi siya pwede sa regular na classroom. Why? Because for clinical rotations, just like delivery room nursing and also operating room nursing, meron tayong mga designated rooms for that one. Okay, so you are familiar naman with our city building. Okay, so doon yung city building, tapos it's connected to the PL, yung PL na building. Doon basically yung mga best rooms for skills lab or for funda especially. Kasi in the first place, you are also near um, the fundamentals laboratory. No? When you would need to request for equipment, no, for your clinical procedures. Okay, so it's just a few steps away. Okay, and the catch there, no, is that you have to make sure that you list down all the needed equipments or materials right before the lesson or right before your procedure. Okay, so going back now with the room, okay, so iba ang setup sa delivery room, sa simulated delivery room na classroom, iba din yung setup sa operating room na simulated classroom. Okay, so it's aside from delivery room nursing and operating room nursing, meron din tayong mga special designated rooms for ICU nursing. Okay? Meron din respiratory therapy room for our RT students. Okay? So, in each of those rooms I've mentioned, nandun na yung mga needed na equipments, nandun yung mga monitors or yung bed, yung patient bed with a mannequin in each one, okay, so as to provide simulated learning. Okay, which you cannot get from a regular classroom. Okay, so itong mga regular classrooms natin, it's more on chairs, tapos may podium or may desk si teacher. No? Okay, so the basic classroom accommodates around mga 40. Ganon. So for those that I mentioned, no, in most rooms, no, very limited yung number of students that can enter. Okay, to give way or to give space rather to those equipment that need to be around. Okay, so next up, third step in assessment of learning needs, we collect data on the learner. Okay, so data or data, no, yung basic information on the learner such as ano yung learning style niya, ano yung learning preferences, yung audiovisual disturbances or conditions are also taken into consideration. Okay, especially for those students who have some problems or who have difficult who require eyeglasses, no, okay, so that's also for consideration. Okay, so let's say for example, no, yung for those students na with visual problems or seeing difficulties, as much as possible dapat seat sila sa front. Okay, so for them to see the PowerPoint presentation or the kung ano yung gina-project using the LCD. Okay, so that's another consideration. Next, include the learner as a source of information. Okay, so definitely no, most students come with some stock knowledge or some stock knowledge of the subject, okay, prior to the start of the official lesson. Okay, so we also consider kung ano yung mga na-learning, kung ano yung mga na-learning niyo during your senior high, okay, or even from certain subjects before us. Okay, so there are some subjects din in nursing na they need prerequisites. Okay, so let's say for example, no, anatomy and physiology, that is one of the basic prerequisite subjects. Okay, so if you happen to fail no in your anatomy, di ka maka-move on to your other subjects. Kasi if you are other subjects or concepts rather. Kasi if you are not well versed or if you do not have a good working knowledge in your anatomy and physiology, then how are you going to correctly identify or correctly, or rather, how are you going to understand lessons concerning alterations in body function? Kasi yung anatomy and physiology, ito yung uh, this is knowledge based on healthy, well-functioning human body, okay, without any diseases. Okay, so if you have that good working knowledge on the normal functioning of the human body, then you are definitely going to appreciate um, and understand more when you encounter mga nursing concepts concerning disturbances in each body system. Okay, so how are you going to learn or how are you going to understand gastrointestinal diseases if you do not totally understand how your GI system works no, properly? Okay, so that is why prerequisite itong si anatomy and physiology. Okay, so that's why no you might encounter CIs na what do you remember sa anatomy physiology ninyo? So definitely you're always and always going to go back to your basic anatomy and physiology whenever you encounter your special nursing concepts. Okay, so your nursing concepts are quite a plenty. Okay, meron tayong cardio, your cardiovascular nursing concept, medical surgical concept. Okay, we also have delivery room or books or obstetric and gynecology concept. Okay, so just to name a few. Okay, next, involve the members health of the healthcare team. Okay, so this is applicable pag nasa clinical setup tayo. Okay, so um, I may have mentioned this one before, no? Basically, when it comes to patient care, it takes a team. Okay, it's not just a doctor, it's not just a nurse alone, no? It's a team. Okay, it's a whole team, okay, caring for patients. Okay, so meron tayo to include din in the team, we also have yung uh, medical technologists, no? Meron din po tayo mga radiology workers sa X-ray. Meron din po tayo sa pharmacy. Okay, now in the ward, meron din po tayong midwives, nursing attendants. So, it takes a whole team to care for uh, the patient. Okay, and for each member of the healthcare team, they each possess a body of knowledge. They also have their own specified skills and expertise now when it comes to taking care of the patient. Okay, so there are some questions or there are some queries that one healthcare team member may answer na hindi ma-answer ng ng iba. No? So may kanya-kanya tayong specialty when it comes to taking care of our patient. Okay, and aside from that, those individual specialties, meron din tayong knowledge base, no, that we can uh, use in teaching our patients important aspects of their healthcare. Okay. Next, you have to prioritize need. Prioritize needs determine availability of educational resources. So, there are those patients na they really need a lot of kanang time, okay, and resources, especially when it comes to understanding the procedure or the disease that they are experiencing. Okay, so let's say for example, no, and I've seen this in from um, videos from hospitals who are into major surgeries. Say for example, no, yung mga children's hospitals in the US, even in the UK, they are really big in client education, especially if there are children or patients in general who are about to have surgery. They really invest time in teaching children as well as their parents on what to expect. Okay, so say for example, yung mga children about to have who are scheduled to have surgery. Okay, so there are hospitals in the US na they have pre-operative surgery class. Okay, so for young children, meron silang designated na room na they have they have replicas or examples or learning materials about the instruments that will be used on the surgery. Okay, so meron din mga um, instances that they use mga dolls or videos to teach children about surgery, like what are they going to do to the patient's body, no, during surgery, na may incision, okay, things like that. But then definitely, no, considering the developmental stage of the patient, they're going to um, pass on or give their health teaching in simpler terms, okay, para hindi din ma-overwhelm ang patient or ang bata. Okay? So, now for adults, no, mga adults, older adults, mga adolescents, no, they can, they're good with, mostly, no, they're good with one-on-one discussion, no, or they may also be, make use of mga printed learning materials with regards uh, to their, to their disease or condition. Okay? So, but then, no, hindi din talaga mawawala yung traditional giving of health teachings. Okay? So, sometimes, no, teaching sessions may be unplanned or totally random. Like, let's say, for example, no, a nurse who is handling patient with diabetes, tapos yung patient with diabetes, meron siyang HGT set. Okay, so itong si HGT, it's hemoglucotest. Okay? Because basically, no, yung mga diabetic patients natin, they do their sugar monitoring. Okay, and especially for those who are confined at home or who are not in the hospital, no, they have their own HGT monitoring machine. Okay, so in my example, no, kanang nurse notices that a patient with diabetes is having difficulties or trying to figure out how to use the HGT machine. So right then and there, the nurse can do client teaching. Okay, so pwede din siya mag instruct or demonstrate on what to do. hemoglucose testing. Okay, so when the patient would see that, no, kahit na ma-discharge siya, okay, he or she will be set at home, that patient already knows how to use that machine. Okay, so it's especially true for um, those patients who are um, using particular instruments or equipment for the first time, and then they need um, additional teaching or guidance on how to properly use those equipment. Okay. Next, assess demands of the organization. Okay, so in a fast-paced clinical setting, no, okay, so yung turnover of patients is quite quite fast, no, so it is up to the healthcare worker, or especially with us nurses, no, on how to properly give yung mga health teachings, so, or in a timely way. Okay, so like for example sa SPMC na setup. Okay, so back then, no, yung when I was assigned in the OB annex, yung one of my prime responsibilities back then, kasi job order nurse ako yung tig-lecture sa breastfeeding and family planning. And then it is a requirement for all patients that before discharge, dapat maka-undergo sila ng um, breastfeeding and family planning na lecture. Okay, ideally one-on-one yung setup, okay, for the instruction. Okay, so that as a nurse, no, you can give personalized health teachings, or you can individualize the um, learning session or teaching session rather according to your patient's preference, no? So para makafocus ka sa one patient alone. However, there are some instances, no, especially in SPMC na patients come in and out, okay, in big numbers. Sometimes we would have admissions na three in one time, no, or sometimes four, kanang four mothers agad, no, coming from the delivery room. Tapos aside from that one, may kasabay silang baby, so times two, no. So um it's really a struggle, no, if you are working in an understaffed environment, okay? And then you are always receiving an influx of patients. Now yung one strategy, no, yung one strategy that I employed, no, or kung ano yung parang shortcut in a way, no. Okay, so instead of giving one-on-one na breastfeeding and family planning na lecture, no, so ang ginagawa ko, or ginagawa namin kay we would gather all the new admissions in one place. Okay, so para sabay na ang breastfeeding and family planning na lecture. Okay? Kasi it's very time consuming if you would make use of the one-on-one teaching session, okay, during your shift. No, why not have them all in one go? Okay, to make it more efficient. Kasi right after the breastfeeding and family planning lecture, we require patients to sign in the designated logbooks. Okay, so that no, by the time na the patient is for discharge, when we check on the logbook, tapos nakita namin na nakadaan, naka-attend siya ng breastfeeding and family planning na class, okay, that's one of the requirements na para ma-discharge ang patient. Kasi yun yung protocol na gina-observe namin sa IWNH, Institute for Women and Newborn Health. Okay, so we are empowering them with knowledge on proper breastfeeding and family planning. Okay, so why are those things important for our postpartum patients? Okay, number one, no, we advocate for breastfeeding. Okay, especially sa mga government setups or even sa mga lying-in, okay, yung mga paanakan doon sa mga barangay, no? Or if in some places like Matina, may mga lying-in centers sila. They observe or they really promote breastfeeding because it is a DOH mandate. Okay, and not just to simply promote breastfeeding, but we also are required to give lessons or discussions as to the benefits of breastfeeding for mothers and for babies. Okay, may benefits na for the mother alone, meron din mga benefits for the baby. Okay, so all in all, no, breastfeeding is more advantages compared to bottle feeding. O in fact, no, especially in SPMC, kung makakita gud kami ng patient na or watcher rather na nagadala ng formula milk or even or even just yung mga bottles gud, the guards in our ward are instructed to confiscate those items. Kasi breastfeeding alone talaga kami yung as practice or um, as mandated by the DOH. Okay, and another thing, no, family planning. Bakit magkasabay sila? Okay, why do postpartum patients have to listen or have to take part in a family planning lecture discussion? Okay, so what pinaka main thing is that after giving birth, no, we instruct mothers to um, avoid getting pregnant at least mga 2 to 3 years, no, before the next one para the patient's uterus will have enough time to recover. Okay? So especially no sa mga patients who experience yung mga spontaneous abortion cases, no? So whenever that happens, they undergo curettage. So itong si curettage, it is a method or procedure that uh, that OB-GYNs, okay, used to scrape or remove yung mga fragments inside the woman's uterus. Kasi kung hindi natanggal lahat ng fragments, no, from the spontaneous abortion, no, the patient will experience heavy bleedings or even infection. So gina-clean talaga sila. And then itong act of curettage, okay, so medyo mataas yung kanyang yung instrument, yung placental curettage. Okay, so just imagine, no, kanang um, yung scraper good sa buko. Okay, so although mas longer ang placental curette. So itong si placental curette, frequent use of this, especially for curettage purposes, it leaves a scar in the uterine lining. Okay, so that scar, no, that wound, no, it takes time for it to heal. Okay, that is why, no, we instruct or we counsel yung mga postpartum patients or even yung mga post-curettage patients na they are not allowed to give to get pregnant, right? To get pregnant right away kasi yung tendency if they still end up getting pregnant tapos hindi pa totally heal yung scar nila from the curettage, there's a big chance na mag-spontaneous abortion ulit ang baby kasi hindi siya makakapit hindi maganda yung pagkakapit niya sa uterine lining if there is scar tissue. Okay, so ano siya, that's something to uh, that's really something na we really teach our postpartum patients. Key family planning. Okay, so they can still have sex, no, especially with their partners or spouses. Okay, provided na they have to try to they have to avoid getting pregnant habang hindi pa fully healed yung kanilang uterus. Okay? So that is why magka-partner talaga yung breastfeeding and family planning lecture sa aming mga patients. Okay? And then considering again yung turnover or yung influx ng mga patients, one-on-one discussions are most of the time, they are not possible. Okay, so gina-group namin or gina-pool or gina-gather namin yung mga patients in one corner, no? Or in one corner or in a designated room. Tapos, sabay sila binibigyan ng breastfeeding and family planning na lecture. Okay, para all in one go sila. Okay, so next, take time. Take time management issues into account. Okay, so time management is the key when it comes to planning out your teacher-learner sessions. And then 9, prioritize needs. Okay, so quite self-explanatory. Okay, so next slide, we have methods methods to assess learning needs. So how are you going to figure out, or how are you going to discover your patients or your clients rather your clients learning needs? Okay, so number 1, informal conversations or interviews. Okay, so that is why if you happen to be kanang shy person like me, no, I started out quite shy, no, but then because of nursing, I learned how to interact with more people, no, especially when it comes to interviewing them. Kasi especially in the clinical setting, how are you going to figure out, or how are you going to properly identify your patient's problem if hindi mo kausapin si patient. Okay, so that is why talk, talk, and talk. No? So communication is the key talaga. Okay, and we need to make use of effective communication strategies to get the most information out of our patient. Okay, and through that, through our communication skills, we get to learn more about our patients and how to help them. Okay, so informal conversations or interviews, so we can engage in ano, how are you? Okay, what do you know about this one? No? Unsay mong let's say for example, sometimes na we would ask our patients, kabalo ka ma'am, kung unsaon ka sa mong surgery, no? Especially when we are preparing or assessing patients who are scheduled for surgery, no? We have to check kung talagang aware sila kung anong gagawin sa kanila. Okay? Because basically, our physicians, okay, they have to properly explain yung advantages, risks, disadvantages of the procedure that they are planning to do on the patient, so that the patient has enough knowledge na makabigay siya ng informed consent. No? So, at the same time, dapat aware si patient kung ano yung gagawin sa kanya. Okay, so like there was one instance, may kaming patient na scheduled for surgery, tapos na prepare na yung surgical request, yung mga medicines niya, and then actually that time, that patient was under co-management, meaning meron there is another doctor, okay, with another specialty na we're working hand in hand with our OB-GYN resident. So usually ang common na co-management, mga IM, surgery, okay? And then there was this one IM resident, internal medicine na resident, na in charge of getting or giving clearance to a particular patient prior to surgery. Kasi sa amin, um, basta over the age of 30, that patient would need cardiopulmonary clearance. And it is the internal medicine resident who does that. Okay, so during that time, yung patient na yon, it was supposed to be kanang basic interview, or kanang the patient was just supposed to receive her cardiopulmonary clearance. But then, itong si IM, tinanong siya, "Ma'am, ano pa nagagawin sa'yo, ma'am? Kabalo ka?" Okay, so from that question, it was revealed na the patient totally has no idea kung anong unsay bukaton sa yaha. Okay, and then because of that, now after confirming, the IM resident, um, hindi siya nagbigay ng clearance. Okay? And because of that one, no, na-delay ang procedure. So, what happened then back then was, the patient had to undergo another um, patient education session with the doctor. Okay? So basically, no, especially for you guys, no, who wish to become doctors in the future, do not just explain things to your patients without confirming if they understood you. Kasi by human nature, no, kada mag-discuss or kada mag-ask, no, we simply nod, no. So but then how sure are you na naka-understand si patient? So that was what happened back then. Okay, so because of that one, no, hindi ma-fulfill yung essence ng informed consent, which was why it was just right na it was just kanang good it was a good decision na hindi ma-delay ma-delay yung surgery. Okay, why? Because you have to really make sure na it is the patient who made the sound decision na mag-undergo ng ganon na procedure. Okay? So, communication is the key. Okay, just because you've said or discussed something to your patient or learner, no, doesn't mean na you does not automatically mean na nag-understand totally si patient. You always have to confirm or ask the patient to repeat, restate what you've said to him or her. Okay? Next, we have the structured interview. So, itong si structured interview, my interviewer, tapos meron siyang set of guide questions. Okay, so this is especially true if you are going to encounter or you are going to have your research. Okay? Research when you reach third year. Okay, so kailangan kasi pag one of the things that you need to graduate or to successfully pass in your BSN, no, is to have a nursing thesis. Okay, so you're quite lucky, no, it's by group, no, para uh, ano um ma-divide yung effort, no. So you're going based on what you are going to use as your thesis problem or thesis question, you're definitely going to need participants. Okay, and you are supposed to gather information from your participants. So one of the best ways for you to get information is through structured interview. So may mga questionnaire sila. Okay? And the researchers or you guys rather, you're going to collate yung data coming from those structured interviews. Okay? Next, we have focus groups. So itong si focus group, it is a group setting na interview. Okay? So back during the pandemic time, no, one example wherein they use a focus group was gagawa sila ng Zoom session with a particular section. Tapos may coordinator or may faculty member na nag-a-ask ng mga questions like, what are your concerns or what were your experiences like during online teaching. Okay, so kumusta naman yung CI ninyo? Okay, so the researcher or the interviewer would gather information in a group setting. So definitely the interviewer will receive as many responses as possible sa focus group. Tapos i-take down niya yung mga notes niya coming from those interactions. Next, we have the self-administered questionnaire. So, itong si questionnaire, okay, so, parang siyang same as the um, structured interview, but you're going to answer the questionnaire at your own pace. Okay, so like, say for example, no, yung Philippine Statistical Authority, di ba, PSA, sometimes no, sa ating mga barangay, we have barangay workers who would pass or who would pass, or rather who would distribute questionnaires about your household. Okay, so you're going to basically answer those questionnaires, and then i-collect sila ng mga taga-barangay. Okay? So questionnaires. Okay, so questionnaires, okay, so you have to also take into consideration kung ano yung language na gagamitin sa questionnaire ninyo. Okay, so this will depend on the community or yung culture ng subject mo. Okay? Next, another method to assess learning needs, we have the test. Okay, pre-test and post-test. In short, yung mga quizzes. Now, especially during um, regular class days. Okay, so depende din sa style ng instructor or ng professor ninyo. Some would want to um, start a day with a quiz. Yung iba naman, they would want to end the day with a quiz. No? So after discussion, okay kids, kindly prepare 1/4, 1/2, no, to serve as evaluation activity at the end of the class, no. Pero napod uban CIs, no, or instructors, no, just like me, no, kana basta na isaba, no, mag declare og surprise quiz, middle na quiz. Okay, sometimes no, meron din mga other instructors or teachers na they give both pre and post test. So talagang bugbog yung mga students when it comes to question to exam questions. So one good example ng use of test, yung pre and post test, is sa nursing review. Okay, so for some people, no, they may opt to take their review classes for their licensure exams at least mga 6 months. Meron din mga brave souls na right after graduation naga-board exam sila agad. Okay, after 3 months of review. Okay, so back then kasi sa amin, no, ang nursing board exam kasi, it's twice a year. Okay, so June, December, usually back then. Yung mga June takers sa amo ang batch, sila ang nag-board exam just a few months after graduation. No? So, yung para yung iba, just like me, no, we opted na 6 months. 6 months ang among review before the board exam. Okay, so iba din ang setup guys sa nursing review. Why? Kasi first day pa lang namin. Okay, so I'm a product of Mind's Nest, yung under yung review center ni Doc Arce. Okay, si Doc Nestor Arce, siya one of the key people or one of the pillars, no, sa review community. Tapos siya, kanang SPCian grad siya. So sometimes no, um, he teaches some subjects in SPC, but I'm not sure kung ano yung mga handle niya na class, but he's one of the best lecturers, reviewers ever. No? Tapos siya, very lively. Okay, so yung style pala nila sa review center, ganito guys. First day pa lang, diagnostic test, no? So around 50 to 100 na questions. So first day mo pa lang, pagpasok mo pa lang sa room, exam agad, no? So siya, feeling the pressure kayo. Okay, so right then and there, no, based on your scores during your from the diagnostic exam, yung mga reviewers, they would already identify kung ano yung mga weak areas ng mga prospective exam takers. Okay, so back then, no, gina-analyze kasi nila yung performance ninyo sa mga practice exams, especially yung diagnostic exams. Okay, so yung mga review assistants nila, yung sa review center, they do analysis. Okay, so gina-analyze nila na, ito siya, weakness niya ang medical surgical nursing. Ito siya, weakness niya ang psychiatric nursing. Yung sa akin before, weakness ko talaga yung pharmacology. Okay, so I had kanang nag-struggle ako sa mga names ng drugs, okay, things like that. No? So yun. So, based on your performance sa mga exams, they can identify kung saan kayo weak, and they can also um, give lectures, no, based on give lectures or prioritize lectures according to the learning needs of the students. Okay, so do not underestimate the power of your pre and post test. Yung post test naman, yung pre-test, no, it just basically tests what you know beforehand about a certain subject or about a certain topic. Itong si post-test, it's means to evaluate if you were able to uh, retain um, retain information from the class that you've just had. Okay, so yung mga quizzes na right after the lecture or discussion. Okay, so next, observation of behaviors. Okay, teachers rather can readily gauge the learner's needs according sa behaviors ng learner. Okay, especially if there are any known learning disabilities or learning problems. So you can also get that from observation, aside from communicating. Next, you have patient's data. So, or patient's record rather. Okay, so educational attainment. Okay, that's another important aspect, no, to consider when it comes to formulating your health teaching plan. Okay. Next, you have chart audits. Okay, so ina-analyze yung chart ng patient. Okay, so especially when it comes to determining kung ano yung best mode of care for that patient. Okay, excuse me. Like based on the patient's response to certain treatments. Okay. Next, formal and informal request. Okay, so ano siya, as far as I can remember, itong formal and informal requests, it could be na you are requesting, no, for your patient's record, no, especially for example, yung sa guidance center natin, they have yung kasi yung old style, before admitting students into the nursing program, talagang magdaan ng personality test, the IQ test, no, general knowledge test, no, that will be conducted by the guidance center. Tapos yung mga taga-guidance center, sila yung tagahawak sa mga records ninyo. Okay, mga records ninyo. And then when that need arises, no, your information or your results can be requested from the guidance center. Okay, same thing din in the clinical setup. No? So let's say for example, doctors are trying to figure out or are trying to find ways to improve their current treatment protocol. So one way to check, no, if effective yung mga practices nila is to audit the patient's chart. Okay, so one of the things, no, that they check when they do nursing audits is yung length of stay of the patient in the hospital. Okay, so if the patient is able to be discharged, no, in less than a week, like 3 to 4 days, no, so that's another determining factor to check if maganda yung response ni patient sa treatment practice ni doctor. Let's say for example, no, kanang patients who are chronically ill. Okay, so more than 1 week, sometimes no, mag-abot yun sila 1 month in the hospital. Okay, so that depends on their disease progression or depende din sa response nila sa treatment. Okay? So, it could be requested or it could be studied. Okay. Next, you have readiness to learn. Okay, so further discussion on this one. So this is the time when the learner demonstrates an interest to learning the type or degree of information necessary to maintain optimal health or to become more skillful in the job. Okay, so this occurs when the learner is receptive to learning and willing to be able to participate in the learning process. Okay, so very self-explanatory. So no matter how important the information or how kung gaano ka grabe yung effort or gaano ka well thought out yung mga strategies ni teacher, uh, it all doesn't it won't be enough actually if or if they won't work if the student is not listening at all or hindi siya receptive to the lesson during that time. Okay, so that is why consider timing. Okay, so timing is a point at which teaching should take place, as defined. Anything that affects the physical or psychological comfort can affect the learner's ability and the willingness to learn. Okay, so ano din siya. Okay, so you have to consider that one in formulating your lesson plan or planning or providing your health teaching to the patient. Okay. One good example, no, kanang patient coming from surgery. Your patient is definitely recovering from anesthesia. So medyo sleepy siya, medyo groggy siya. So you cannot expect na, ma'am, sir, kanang magtudlo ko ano ha ka ng wound dressing. So kahit gaano kaganda ng visual aid ninyo or kahit gaano kagaling ka mag-discuss sa patient. So if the patient is not receptive, no, kanang super sleepy siya, hindi talaga siya maka-appreciate sa health teaching ninyo. So timing is the key. A better way of doing your health teaching, no, on a post-surgery patient is kung awake siya. Be awake, alive, alert, no? So, pag ganon, your patient has that opportunity to interact with you and get insights or get corrections na if needed. Okay, so timing talaga. Excuse me, ha. Okay. Okay, so we have 4 types of readiness to learn. Okay, so peak by Lichtenthal. Okay. Okay, so P, it forms the word peak. So it's a mnemonic. Okay, so P stands for your physical readiness. So under your physical readiness, you have measures of ability, okay, complexity of a task. Okay, so the simpler the task, no, the easier it is for your learner to demonstrate or to repeat. No? However, pag medyo refined or medyo complicated ang task, no, it's going to take some time, no, for the student or for the patient to learn. No? Okay. Next, environmental effects. Okay, so it could be environmental factors like room temperature, availability of equipment. Okay, for example. Next, health status. Okay, so definitely hindi focus si learner if may sakit siya or if may physical condition siya at that time na makahinder sa kanyang learning ability or readiness to learn. For example, yung visual disturbances, no? Next, gender or rather sex. Okay, sex is the more correct term for this one. Itong si gender kasi it's more on the social identity ng individual. Okay? So there are certain tasks, no, that males can do readily, okay, compared to females. Okay, so first and foremost, no, yung physical differences, okay, yung strength needed, okay? Like say for example, yung lifting. Okay, lifting a patient in the hospital, no? Especially yung mga patients who are quite heavy, yung mga overweight or even yung mga obese na patients, no? So, kung may need talaga na i-move ang patient or i-turn to side yung patient sa bed, no? Usually, no, ginatawag din namo, no, kay yung mga nursing attendants na male, okay, kasi they're much bigger, no? Okay, but then that depends din on the teamwork, okay, no? Especially when it comes to lifting, okay? So next, E is for your emotional readiness. Okay, so under emotional readiness, we have these self-explanatory aspects like anxiety level. Okay, we also have your support system, motivation, also have risk-taking behavior, the patient's or the learner's state frame of mind at that time and the developmental stage. Next, you have E for your experiential readiness. So, level of aspiration, kung ano yung goal ni patient, at kung ano yung gusto niya i-achieve. Next, yung past coping mechanisms, yung cultural background, because definitely may mga cultural practices or religious practices that determines a patient's readiness to learn. Okay? Next, locus of control and orientation. Okay, so last, we have knowledge readiness. So, ano yung current or present knowledge base ng learner? Next, yung cognitive ability niya. Okay, so this refers na yung sa ability ng brain ng patient to process information. Okay, and base decisions on on the cognitive functions. Okay, next, yung mga learning disabilities and learning styles. Okay, that falls under your knowledge readiness. Okay, so to further define your learning styles, these learning styles refer to the ways individuals process information. Okay, and you have to accept a diversity of styles to help educators create an atmosphere for learning that offers experiences that encourage each individual to reach his or her full potential. Okay, so um, sino dito ang naka-watch ng Every Child is Special? Okay, so kindly send me a heart or thumbs up sa mga nakaka-watch. Ayan, may 1, 2, 3. Okay. So, time and time again, no, you might encounter this movie, especially when you reach your school nursing rotation in second year. Yung ginawa ko kasi last time, no, film viewing ko yung mga students ko ng Every Child is Special. Why? Because it's very eye-opening. It's about a school ager with dyslexia. Tapos, yung struggle ng child, that time si Ishan, meron siya mga difficulties in reading, in math, no? So he was misunderstood by his classmates and even his teacher. So sinasabihan siya always as stupid, good for nothing, no? But then there came a time na he encountered a teacher who finally understood his problem. So kung ano yung ginawa ng teacher na yon, so he made use of other styles, or rather he made use of other learning materials to help Ishan. So as for a dyslexic patient or a dyslexic child rather, hindi sila pwede sa mga printed materials kasi definitely hindi sila maka-read or hindi sila maka-understand because for them, no, yung ABC in English looks like Chinese to them. They cannot properly process yung shapes, yung forms ng mga letters and numbers. So, ang ginawa ng teacher niya, actually he was a substitute art teacher, yung nag-guide talaga kay Ishan at the middle to the end of the movie. He made use of other methods like clay, sticks, no? Yung mga chalk. Okay, so made use of games, no, para swak din sa developmental age ng bata, okay, to further motivate the child to learn. Okay, so because of that one, no, okay, just konting spoiler, Ishan was able to fulfill or reach his full potential in school, no? So they discovered na matalino talaga siya na bata, and he was gifted with ability to make beautiful paintings. So it's a very very nice movie, no, kana it's ano siya kanang more than 2 hours long. More than 2 hours long siya na movie. Okay, so if you have time, no, you may watch that one. Okay, it's really a nice movie. Naapod siya sa Netflix. Kaya ang ginamit lang nila na title sa Netflix is yung original Hindi na title. Kaya I always forget that one. Okay, so um ano siya, yung literal na translation ng Hindi title is yung Like Stars at Night. So again, that's a very nice movie. Okay, so in addition, no learning style is better or worse than another. Okay, so to each his own. Okay, just because someone doesn't like reading, okay, makes a learner less of a person. Okay, so ano siya kanang dapat why ba dapat walay um dapat no bashing involved na when it comes to our learning styles, no? So no kanang medyo uso din, or there are some students no na hilig jud sila mag-highlighter, kay highlighter, make use of yung mga markers, yung mga post-it notes no on their books, no. So ako no sometimes kanang just normal pencil markings or normal ball pen markings. Okay na sa akin. Okay, so there are those din na, especially no, with you guys no, instead of traditional note taking, you make use of your tabs or iPads or mga special gadgets for learning. Okay, so meron din iba na traditional yung gamit nila. Okay, no learning style or no learning instrument is better or worse than another. Okay, so it's all on you. Okay, because in the end, ikaw yung learner. Okay, you know the best way to help yourself learn. Okay, so next we have the 6 learning style principles. So number 1, both the style by which the teacher prefers to teach and the style by which the student prefers to learn can be identified. Okay. Next, teachers need to guard against overteaching by their own preferred learning style. So it's not all the time na lecture ata. Okay? There are sometimes na pwede magamit ng mga videos or pwede magamit ng mga other styles, no, like teach live demo, no, or um one-on-one learning setup, tapos may guided supervision. Okay, so depende sa style. Okay, next, teachers are most helpful when they assist the students in identifying and learning through their own style preferences. Okay, so next, students should have the opportunity to learn through their own preferred style. And fifth, students should be discouraged to diversify their style preference. Okay, so if ever no, the student would wish to explore or change his or her style preference, it's basically the student's decision kung mag-try siya ng other methods. Okay, so 6, the teacher can develop specific learning activities that reinforce each modality or style. Okay, so this is especially true no pag in some universities, no. So in other universities, no, sometimes no may mga professors na they just give the list of chapters to be read, tapos it's up to the student kung unsaon niya pag-study, okay, on how to keep him or herself self-motivated. Okay, tapos it's up to the student to figure out how to learn the lesson. Okay? Meron din naman iba, no, there are also other professors that really make use of other activities, okay, to help the learners learn. Okay, so may mga iba na mag-film viewing, may mga iba na make use of role playing, no? So to make students more proactive sa lesson. Okay? Okay, next topic, we have the learning style models according to Kolb. Okay, so itong si Kolb, just like last lesson, okay, I'm going to still find out kung ano yung full name niya. Okay, so definitely this is a surname. Okay, so itong si Kolb, he was a management expert from Case Western Reserve University, and he was responsible for discovering or presenting the different learning styles. So he believed that knowledge is transformational. It's a transformational process that is continuously created and recreated. So knowledge is just like nursing, it is evolving. It evolves through time, and it is improved. The longer the longer it goes, no, or the longer it stays, it still undergoes an evolution. Okay, and there are more facts or more information added to present knowledge. Okay, that's the beauty of it. It's dynamic. Okay. In addition, he also believed that learning is a continuous process grounded in the reality that the learner is not a blank state. Okay? Instead, every learner has some ideas already. Meron na silang mga built-in strategies or approaches on how to learn. Okay? So, another phrase for this one is preconceived ideas. Meron na silang idea, or meron na silang basic understanding or guess on what they're about to learn. Okay, so in his theory on learning styles, okay, Kolb stated that learning is a cumulative result of the past experiences, heredity, and the demands of the present environment. So these factors combine to produce different individual orientations to learning. Okay, so these aspects or these factors are responsible for making learning different for each and every one. Okay, so by knowing each learner's preferred style, the educator is better equipped to assist learners in refining or modifying these preconceived ideas so that real learning can occur. Okay, so and it takes time for you to discover this. Um, okay, so it's for you to figure out. Okay, so the cycle of learning according to Cobb's model, it includes 4 modes of learning which reflect 2 major dimensions of perception and processing. Okay, so we have this one. Okay, so we have concrete experience for feeling. Okay, meron din po tayong, under this, we have, next we have reflective observation or watching. Meron din po tayong abstract conceptualization or thinking, and active experimentation or doing. So, nandito yung accommodator, diverger, converger, and assimilator. So, we're going to go into detail for each one on the next slides. By the way, if you wish to go to the bathroom or drink water, you may do so. I just want to get this done. Okay, so we start with the converger. Okay, so converger learns by abstract conceptualizing and active experimentation. So thinking and doing. Okay, so works better when given practical application or concept. Prefers experimenting with new ideas, simulations, and lab assignments. So, learners who are convergers learn best through demonstration, RD, by handouts, diagrams, charts, and illustrations. So, meaning you need to give them those needed learning materials. They are visual learners. Okay, so mas makaka-understand sila if may mga visuals or if may mga meron silang mga reference models or reference na mag-perform. Okay, um, learning by doing, okay, thinking. So they also would want to imitate. So next, we have the diverger. So itong si diverger, okay, so they, yung focus nila is on concrete experience. Okay, how do they feel about a lesson? Okay, and at the same time, they're also big on reflective observation, watching. So they are people and feeling oriented. They like to work in groups to gather information, listening with an open mind, learn best when allowed to observe and collect. No? So they basically learn best through group discussion and brainstorming sessions. So dito yung mga tao na or dito yung mga students na who are big on group study. So another thing, no, pag group study, no, especially if there is food involved, no, sige order ko panda, sige pizza, no. So this brings me back to to my student days, no, kasi one of the things, no, kanang hindi ko talaga magets dati yung bakit may group may mga mahilig mag-group study. Ayoko kasi ng mga medyo maingay kasi being the introvert that I am, I like focusing on the topic in itself. I don't want to have any distractions. Kaya no, kanang sa mga case study or yung mga group papers na dapat gawin, hindi ako makafocus if ang daming mga tao around me. No? So, I work best when I'm on my own. Kasi I can focus on the lesson, I can focus on research, wala magsamok-samok sa ako. So, definitely, um, hindi ako pang diverger. Okay? So, better if may mga divergers, no, kanang those who are comfortable with group study setup, those who like being around people, no. Another thing din pala, no, sa yung sa group or kanang group study na I really dislike back then, they mix it with maritesing ka naman libak good sa uban mga members from other groups, and I did not like that at all. Okay, so kanang medyo it's toxic to my ears, no, and I personally, no, I really don't like it when people speak ill of other people, so I tend to avoid people who do that. Okay, so that is why I appeared as kanang most of my classmates, they antagonize me in that way. But then, yun yung talaga, me personally, I really did not want to be in a group study, no. So yung may mga instances kasi na may silent bullying, no, kanang may conflict doon, no? So yan siya. It's really on yung learning style. Okay. There are some instances kasi na one source of conflict among students is that magkaiba yung mga learning styles nila. Okay, yung conflict is bound to happen if you mix divergers with non-divergers. So you're going to find out yung definition ng other two after this. Okay? So next, next we have accommodator. So itong si accommodator, they rely heavily on concrete experience and active experimentation. So they are impatient with other people. Okay, so they are risk takers. They often use trial and error. They act more on intuition, okay, instinct rather than logic, and they work best with hands-on. Okay, so in short, no, kanang super achiever sila. Okay, so this is another thing, no, kanang if you compare me to my mom, she's more on accommodator kasi hindi siya talaga or rather a best way, ano, uh, one of her main traits talaga, impatient siya, okay? She cannot take it when people are slow in learning, no? Ayaw din niya talaga na slow ang kasama niya when it comes to following her instructions, no? So may tendency talaga mag-flare up yung mom ko, okay, because of her impatience. So accommodator din na siya. Okay, very perfectionist, no? So I can do it. How come I can do it? Okay, you can't do. But how about you? You cannot do it, no? So, ano ka nang, may mga tendency siya na muyaw siya with me and my sis, no? Because of her accommodator tendencies. So, ano siya, kaya ano man good, super bright man good kayo na siya. Okay, okay, so, moving on, we have the fourth one, and that is the assimilator. So, assimilators, they focus on abstract conceptualizing. They're into thinking and at the same time, reflective observation. Okay, so those who fall under assimilator, they are more concerned with abstract ideas than people. Okay, they're very good in inductive reasoning, creative theoretical models, and integrating ideas and actively applying them. Okay, so they make use of logical thinking. Okay, so they learn best through lectures, one-on-one instruction, and reading materials, self-instruction. So, if you know, dito ako mas nafo-fall. Okay, so for me personally, I'm more on this one, assimilator. Okay, so especially no, yung mga introverts just like me, no, kanang they prefer to spend time on their own, no, to learn something. Okay, or mga one-on-one instructions, to kaya naman nila. Okay, or what you call this as another term for this one is itong sila, they are the self-taught, mga self-taught na learners. Okay, so assimilator for the fourth one. Okay, so ito siya, it's actually a book. Okay, so Kolb's Learning Style Inventory and How to Use It Effectively. Okay, ito yung title ng book niya that you may use as your reference. Okay. Okay, next we have Gregor's Cognitive Style Model. So ito siya, Anthony F. Gregor is a phenomenal researcher, lecturer, consultant, and author, and president of Gregor Associates. So ang line of work niya, he went through being a teacher, professor, and lecturer around the world. Okay, so he is internationally recognized for his work in learning styles, which began in 1969 with introduction of his energetic model of styles. Okay, so this work evolved into the mind styles model in 1984. So the theory behind the model, okay, so itong si Gregor, he provided an organized way to consider how the mind works. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so he identified four sets of dualities or situations that consist of two parts that are complementary or opposed to each other. Sorry for the typo. Okay, so the mind has the mediation abilities of number one, perception. So the way one perceives or grasps or incoming information or stimulus in a continuum ranging from abstractiveness to concreteness. Okay, number two, ordering of knowledge. So the way one arranges and systematizes incoming stimuli in a continuum or scale ranging from sequence to randomness, which affect the way a person learns. Excuse me. Okay, so moving on. Sorry if ever na yung mga strange sounds. So there are four combinations of strongest perceptual and ordering ability in each individual. So we have concrete sequential. We also have abstract random. We have abstract sequential and concrete random. So no one is a pure style. Okay, each of us has a unique combination of natural strengths and abilities. So we start with concrete sequential. So concrete sequential, Learners like highly structured, quiet learning environments without interruptions. They also like concrete learning materials, especially visuals, and give focus on details. So they may tend to interpret words literally. So they still need some guidance, okay, for this one. Next, for the concrete random, they are intuitive. So trial and error methods of learning looks for alternatives. Okay, they look for alternatives. So ano sila, they tend to be on the creative side. Next, we have abstract sequential. So ito sila, these are learners who are holistic learners and need consistency in learning environment. They do not like interruptions at all. Okay? So they have good verbal skills, are rational and logical. Okay, so next, abstract random. Okay, so abstract random, they think holistically, learn a lot from visual stimuli. Okay, so they prefer busy, unstructured learning environment, and they focus on personal relationship. Okay, so okay. In short, meron din silang they are people persons. Okay, so they do well no kanang in a group setting as well. Okay, so to further define, no, here is a table illustrating the main differences. So identify kung saan ka. Okay, so um these are details with describing what each learner likes, okay, how they learn best, and what's hard for them. Okay, so take some time. You may also screenshot this one. Okay, don't worry. I'm also going to upload this on Quipper. Okay. By the way, guys, yung activity that I have in mind for you, no, and if as long as you pass it, you submit it, no, especially within the day or better before 12, um, automatic 10 points, perfect quiz na po ito siya. Again, it will be part of your midterm. So basically you're going to identify your learning style, okay, according to Gregor and also according to Kolb. Okay, so right after this lesson, I'm going to give you hopefully by 10:15. So I think that's enough time for you at 11:15 rather. That's enough time for you to work on your activity. No? So, mechanics for this one, you may choose to type it or you may choose to have it handwritten. Basta gawin niyo siyang PDF. Okay, and then basically you're going to write about your learning style. Okay, and you justify or you give examples of situations wherein masasabi niyo talaga na ito yung learning style ninyo. Okay? So, next table, we have concrete random, when compared to abstract random. Okay, so, siya. Okay, so you may read this on your own, okay, especially when you are reflecting on your learning style. Yes, Mr. Giolina.
Regarding sa activity po, ma'am ba? Like,
Yes.
ang ilagay namin is based lang talaga sa personal experience or need namin i-compare sa mga given na mga learning styles na gi-present mo?
Based on your personal experience. Okay, so there may be some instances no na may naga-overlap yung ibang styles, no. So just identify kung anong learning styles ang where you fall under, okay, learning style wise.
Ano ma'am, like where it falls under sa anong gi-discuss mo?
Yes. Yes.
Okay po ma'am, thank you.
So para siyang kanang self-discovery na activity. Okay? Okay, next one. Okay, ito siya kanang By the way, no, when I went over your exam scores, no, kanang na-amaze ko kay hala may naka-over, may naka 60 above, may naka 70 above, no. So, as I've said, no, ang ginawa ko is para wala jud bagsak, no. Hindi din ako pwede mag plus 27 for those items na hindi natin na-discuss. So, the safest number, no, for me to add was plus 10. Okay? So, yun. Especially itong part na ito, itong si 7 types of intelligence, most of you got it right. Most of you got it right naman. Ito siya. Okay, so next we have Gardner, 7 types of intelligence. So this is a theory specific to children's learning style. So you're also going to include this one. So bale in your written activity, you're going to identify your learning style based on Kolb and also on Gregor. And then yung third part is you're going to write down kung ano yung um, learning style mo based on your type of intelligence. Okay, so back then, no, traditionally, intelligence was only determined by just one factor, and that was exam performance. However, no, because of the discovery of Gardner 7 types of intelligence, we found people found out na there are different ways of being smart. Okay, so there are those na book smart. There are also those who are body smart, no, music smart or sound smart, no? So this is also an interesting part of the lesson. Okay, so number one, we have those who are um with a one type of intelligence, no, or according one type of learning style is yung verbal or linguistic. Okay, so basically, okay, so they're to read basically, no, they deal with spoken and written and spoken words or language or use and meaning of language. Okay, so the learner understands the order and meaning of words. They like convincing someone. Okay, they tend to engage in verbal debate, okay, in explaining in words, teaching, or telling or enjoying verbal jokes, creative writing, and appreciation of poetry. So, language or communication rather. Okay, next. No? So, next is the logical or mathematical. Okay, so they're into problem solving, logical reasoning. Okay, so it involves both sides of the brain. Okay, so this refers to inductive and deductive reasoning, abstraction, and discernment of numerical patterns. Okay, so sana all kayo ning si logical, mathematical because na generally most people hate or are scared or are quite intimidated by math. No? So for those who fall under this learning style or according to this specific type of intelligence, they are into pattern recognition. They also like making predictions, estimating using inductive and deductive reasoning, discerning relationships and connections, and performing complex calculations. Okay, scientific reasoning, performs experiments and seeking explanations. Okay, they also like categorizing information and computer programming. Okay, next one. Okay, spatial and visual learner types. So these are those na who are into arts, crafts, okay, geometry, design. Okay, the active part of the brain is the right side one. Okay, right side rather. So this involves the ability to visualize an object, to create internal images, the ability to transform or create images, forming and rotating mental images. So the learner here recognizes relationship of objects in space, a sense of direction, okay, finding ways around. So ito sila yung mga artistic or yung mga illustrators, no? So they are and other visual arts. Okay, so they know how to find their way around, and their creative outlets include drawing, painting, sculpting, color discrimination, and visual perspective taking, and they tend to have this active imagination. Okay, so that's for spatial and spatial visual. Okay, next we have the musical or rhythmic or yung sound smart. Okay, so um, they have this sensitivity to rhythm and beat, and recognition of tonal patterns and pitch and appreciation of musical expression. Okay, so they understand the structure of music, creating melodies, a rhythm, sensing melodies of tone, and playing an instrument, repeating a tune, and recognizing composers. So one example, no, if you've seen the movie Rocketman, no, it was based on the life of Elton John. So, ano siya kanang at the very especially during the part when they were showing him as a young boy, no. So, yung mga musical geniuses, especially si Elton John, they can copy or they can play a musical piece right away just after listening to it after for the first time, no? So madali sila maka-pick up ng mga tones or mga musical chords. Okay, so ano siya? Um, this is true especially for those yung mga gifted musicians. Okay? Next, we have the body smart, okay, bodily or kinesthetic learning style. So they're into athletics, okay, dance, acting, manual dexterity, exercise. So the active part here is the basal ganglia, cerebellum, and other structures. So basically, the learner takes and process knowledge through the use of bodily sensation, and learning is accomplished through the use of body language and physical movement. So here, yung mga learners dito, they have this good hand-eye coordination. They are mimetic or they into imitating or impersonating. They have abilities, the speed and agility and strength and endurance to work with tools. Then they need constant movement and exercise. So mostly on the go ito sila. They need to keep their bodies moving. So that is for them, that is their best way of getting simulation or knowledge. Okay, next we have interpersonal intelligence. So ito siya, you can find this in community service, role-playing, conflict resolution, leadership, teamwork. Okay, and the active part of the brain is the prefrontal lobes. So here the learner's emphasis is on communication and interpersonal relationships. So they're good at verbal and non-verbal communications. They discern underlying intention. So they're good at reading people. Okay, so dito mahuhulog yung mga taga-psychology. Okay, so they know how to understand behavior and perspectives. They're into empathy, working cooperatively, and they are also sensitive to other people's moods. No, madali sila ma-hurt or madali sila makasense no if something is off with another person. They also know motives and feelings, and they lead others, and they tend to like making and keeping friends. Okay, so next, we have intrapersonal intelligence. So dito yung medyo mga introverted or those who are into journaling, personal assessments, reflections, okay, goal setting, progress reports, or prefrontal area yung active part. So ito siya, one of the downsides of having a big interpersonal intelligence, no? Kanang tayo, we're really big on overthinking, no? Because we are focused on our inner thought processes such as reflection and metacognition. We include spiritual awareness, development, and self-knowledge. Okay, so here you give yung aspects wherein people with interpersonal intelligence are good at. No? They are accurate. They have this accurate self-perception, self-reflective, self-directed sense of values, and intuitive, independent, and awareness of expression. Okay, so those are your seven types of intelligence. Okay, so again, I'm going to post yung mga guidelines or yung official instructions sa natin sa 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 GC. I'm going to provide a Google form for this one so that everyone gets to pass. Tapos makita ko agad yung time na na-pass ninyo. Okay? Don't worry, I'm going to post this on Paper. Yung ano ha, I just need to finalize yung mga grouping. I'm just going to finalize din yung mga groupings ninyo. Hopefully I get to post them as well for your groupings for your final exam sa teaching demo and video. Anyway, post ko din siya sa Paper or din sa GC.